I would like to welcome everyone to our presentation. It is titled The Ladder to Success, Creating Student Leaders. And this ACT project has been coordinated by a group of individuals at our school, including myself, Noel Crum, the principal, Monica Daniel, she is our CTE principal at the high school, assistant principal and 21st century coordinator, Misty DeLong, Justin Arms, who is a bar coordinator, freshman principal, and teachers Mark Shepard, who is an engineering instructor and works on our ACT core team, and Nikki Cottle, who's a biomed instructor, but who is also our assessment coordinator. We would like to make some special acknowledgements. First of all, none of this would be possible without Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative, KVEC, and the work that they've done through the ARI grant, but especially Jennifer Carroll, who has worked tirelessly to help us throughout all 3 years that we've been working with the ACT projects. We would also like to send a big thank you out to the Regional Educational Laboratories of Appalachia, REL Appalachia, and the people there who've helped us tremendously this year are Ashley Campbell, CJ Park, Stephanie Suarez, and Kathleen Dempsey. And finally, a new component that we added this year, which was one of our cornerstones of our ACT project, is Leader in Me. And a special thank you to William Blackford, who has been our coach and has done an amazing job helping us all year long. This time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Nikki Cottle, who will go through our TOA.
Hi. If you take a look here, you'll see our theory of action for the year, and we're going to dissect this starting with the problem of practice, which is on the next slide. REL did a really good job of taking a look at some qualitative data that we'd collected the past 3 years, and they diagnosed our problem, which is students lack academic ownership and motivation. They also lack social emotional skills that are needed to be successful after high school. So we put in place a Leader in Me curriculum this year where we have a modified bell schedule. Kids go to leadership every other Monday, but I think it ended up being most Mondays this past school year. And they were split up into career clusters, and their leadership teacher was a teacher that's familiar with that career. For example, I had a group of 30 biomedical students because I'm a biomedical teacher. Our carpentry students were hosted by a carpentry teacher. And the high school leadership team designs bi-weekly lessons or weekly lessons from the steps in the Leader in Me leadership protocol. And our district office was fantastic and has provided a one-to-one Chromebook so that the kids could complete their lessons. And we were hoping, as a result of the Leader in Me curriculum, for students to have an increased participation in clubs and student organizations, leadership roles in and out of school, and increased participation in sports. We also embedded career pathway lessons throughout so that they could engage deeper in their career pathways. We even had our students improve school policies. They worked side by side with our site-based council to change our attendance policy. And one other additional student outcome that we hoped for was that students would become more involved in tutoring, especially through our Eagle Enrichment program before and after school. Mrs. Daniel?
Okay, one of our theory in action is focused on team building, and we wanted to include all of our stakeholders in this. When we met with REL in Magoffin County, they really helped us focus our theory of action. We have got our principal's roles, and the principal is responsible to monitor and make sure that each leadership group has a teacher with the skill set like Ms. Cottle was talking about. Our carpentry students are with the carpentry teacher, engineering students are with math or engineering teacher. We also make sure that the lesson plans are distributed on the Google Drive to where our teachers have time to review that and know what they're going to be facilitating on that. And also with the REL's direction, we have used surveys to survey the students and teachers regarding the effectiveness of the current leadership program and how that is rolled out. We also have support of our district personnel. Mr. Cochran was very adamant that he wanted the high school to be a flagship for the Leader in Me in order to hopefully roll this into the middle and all of our elementary schools, that we can be a Leader in Me district. So he was very instrumental in making sure that we were able to do that this year, which started with district-wide training in the summer of year before last, and then last summer with our high school teachers doing that Leader in Me training. Also, the technology department at the board office makes sure that we have our one-to-one Chromebooks for students to use, as most, if not all, of our lessons go out and are housed in our in Google. Then our teachers are the ones, of course, that facilitate the lessons. They work with the ACT team. They work with our student leadership team, and actually facilitate the lessons for our Leader in Me activities. And Mr. Shepherd will be talking about the different roles, what the teachers do to actually see this through.
Before we started trying to see anything through for this year, what we all did was come together for a training. Our entire faculty went to Jenny Wiley, and we had a 2-day training. At this training, we were introduced to William Blackford, who was a Franklin Covey coach. He focused on the 7 habits of highly effective people. This was a training that was very inspirational. It really made everybody focus on not just the what your profession is, but why you're actually doing it. We had a group of students that were there with us. We invited our core lead team of our student leadership to be on site with us. That way they could see the type of training that we were putting into the school year to prepare for them. As the training went on, Mr. Blackford was able to really get us to see what we were trying to do to work toward our theory of action that we'd established over the last 3 years. Whenever we realized that our theory of action was going to be improved by addressing those 7 habits, it made it a very good transition for the teachers to come into the new school year. Our teacher lead team, after the training, we stepped back and focused on how our teachers were motivated, and asked any teacher that wanted to participate more deeply and with the students, that we wanted to reach out to them to where they could be a group of lead teachers that the students would be able to work with as we tried to work on our culture. Our goal with our group initiation for our teacher lead team was to be inclusive of every department in the building, but also not just experienced veteran teachers, but also our new incoming teachers, to where that they could have ownership of a project that was working toward the theory of action that we were trying to have our students have more ownership. We wanted our teachers to really be a central part of that. And as we look at the group there, this is the group that came out of the 2-day training as our teacher lead team. And as you can see, we just are a little bit of everything that our school offers. This group, as we worked with REL, we found that we needed to engage the student in a way to find what was the better parts of our lessons. And we also needed to engage our teachers in a way. So one of the things that REL suggested after looking at our data is that we create some teacher surveys to where our teacher team could send those out to the students. And that way we could just ask them point blank, what did you like this week? What did you not like? What is something we could improve upon? Tell us what worked about this lesson. This group was really central in taking those responses and being able to push those forward and make sure that we got some positive information out of the lessons we were trying to do. As we move to student core leadership, Misty DeLong will take over from here.
Hi guys, this project is something that we're very proud of, and the pictures that we are going to share, we're just going to give you an idea of how this theory of action and how all of this research and data came to really take place within our school. And so what you see here in this picture is Mr. Blackford surrounded by a group of our students just discussing how do we become a better school. Because while leadership is our core focus, we quickly identified that our students needed to lead themselves, and also they needed to lead their peers. And so just like Mr. Shepherd was talking about us including teachers of every demographic, we were very careful to take nominations of students who covered every demographic within our schools. They represent every major within our school. We're about 50-50 male, female, as well as representing freshman class, sophomore class, junior and senior class. We took teacher nominations, and then as I show you a few more pictures, you're going to see as we started to expand the team, we moved from teacher recommendations into student recommendations. But the very first thing that they did as a group were they organized student action teams, and these action teams were going to target the main problems that they felt like our school was facing. And we didn't prompt them in any way. We allowed them to brainstorm and to throw out and just really anything that they wanted to see changed about our school. And so what you're going to see in the next slide is one of the things that they came up with, and we'd never really thought about, was they wanted to hear their peers on the announcements. They said that sometimes it was like they would hear the same adults over and over, and they ended up kind of tuning out announcements. And so the students decided that if they were to hear their peers, they would probably pay better attention. And so we created a student action team that just discussed announcements. And as we sat around brainstorming ideas of how we could do this, because we have 70 plus adults who could be feeding announcements and district level announcements and that needed to be shared, we were concerned with how can we make certain that everyone's announcements are there. And so the students came up with a Google sheet that would roll off, and it had a place where every adult could add announcements for whatever organization they represent, and they could add when they wanted it announced and when they wanted them to stop announcing it. And so this worked very well because it gave a live document that our kids could access anywhere. And that same live document, we were able to share out on social media sites. And you'll see on the next page, the kids took it a different level. They came to me and said, we want to continue doing our student-led announcements, but we feel like we need to go community-wide. And so I was like, well, how do you want to do that? Because just like most school districts, Facebook and live feeds like that are blocked from our students. So they created a YouTube account and shared YouTube live announcements every morning. And so parents, community members would share that out through social media, and they were able to share those very important announcements community-wide. And so if there were things that our seniors needed to know or scholarship opportunities, they went community-wide. And they also, another student action team that we looked at were student wins. They wanted to ensure that all of our students were recognized, because we know that football players, basketball players, those people are always getting accolades, but they wanted to broaden that. And they wanted our school to be a place where everybody could be involved, no matter what their role was. And so, as you see here on the bottom left hand, we started highlighting, and when I say we, it was the student lead team. They came up with the template. They went out and did the interviews, and each week we would highlight a student, a spotlight, a faculty spotlight, an alumni spotlight, and a student organization spotlight. And those would go out and just talk about, say, for instance, the teacher pictured there, Mr. Real. You may not know that he teaches engineering as well as integrated science, and that he had certain degrees. And so we wanted to really highlight their accomplishments. And then as we were looking at going into the state football championship, one of our lead team came to us and said, we need to have a selfie challenge. We need to put out there that we're going to all be seeing our faces at Kroger Field. And so each week we started just throwing out selfie challenges that could be something as big as the football state championship, or as small as, a standard swim meet that happens each week. And also here, our student lead team went to Frankfurt and represented our school and discussed with legislators how they could continue to reproduce strong leaders in our region. And some of the more kind of focused things that just happened within our school, our kids felt like we needed to participate in cleaning our campus, as well as applying school decorations that were appropriate to what was going on in the community. And so you see this group of kids here. They came to me and got a garbage bag and went out, and they would fill up each garbage bag. And then they had just a really friendly competition on who could fill the most garbage bags for each hour of community service. And those opportunities, which we presented to all of our kids, served them well when it came time to apply for Governor Scholar programs and other scholarship opportunities. And again, leadership is all about making meaningful connections. Our kids took the opportunity to network, to outreach, and to influence. So you will see on the left-hand side there, our core leadership seniors met with Rotary and discussed the future of our community. And it was a really neat opportunity for our kids to sit at the table with elected officials, with lawyers and bankers and doctors, and talk about where they see Johnson County in 20 years. You also see again here, we met with our state representatives in Frankfurt, but it wasn't just that. Our kids in the top left or top right-hand corner, you'll see there, they went out to the elementary schools and talked about the importance of reading and the importance of owning your own leadership even at the elementary level. And you can see here that we also went to Louisville to a statewide leadership conference as a district, just trying to continue to reproduce those leadership opportunities for our kids. And now I'm going to turn it over to Principal Crum, who's going to talk to you a little bit about our PDSA cycle.
Okay, as we got the opportunity this year to work with REL Appalachia and Ashley Campbell and the whole crew there, held a lot of video conferences with us throughout the year, and one of the things that we talked about was the PDSA cycle. And through that, we were able to kind of reflect back to see that we have actually completed a cycle and a half during the span of time that we've been working with our ACT project, because this has been kind of a continuation. So we started with this idea of doing a student leadership program, and we planned that. We actually did the activities. We had a chance to study and reflect upon that, and then develop actions. And so for this year, those actions were to implement the Leader in Me as a focal point to help funnel a lot of the leadership activities, also incorporating in that the 7 habits training, because our focus with leadership was a dual focus. We wanted to focus not only on student leadership, but also staff leadership. So we're trying to increase the leadership capacity of both groups. And so basically this year we were able to plan and do those activities. We were right at the process of getting ready to study when we were abruptly kind of, stopped with this COVID-19 crisis, and school ended on March 13th. But as we were leading up to that point, as Mark had alluded to earlier, we had conducted teacher surveys. Here you can see we also conducted student surveys, and we asked some of our teachers to actually connect with students and ask them, okay, tell us which grade and group you were in, and here are some questions. And then we just try to keep it very simple, like what was something interesting or useful you learned in your leadership class today, and if you could change anything about leadership class, what would it be and why? So we were able to date those, and then we were able to just get some very quick, brief student responses so that we can just start gathering some baseline data to see, well, is this too lengthy, or is it hitting the right, lesson focus that we really wanted? Are we accomplishing the goals that we set out to do? And so, we were at the point, but the problem is by the time we were able to implement the student surveys and the faculty surveys, we really didn't get a massive amount of data collected yet. We were hoping to get the whole rest of the school year to where we would have a lot more to go on. So we're going to have to use the data that we've got and try to, take that this summer to implement whatever refinements that we can, which kind of leads to where we are right now. Obviously, with the diversion of everything going on, we never thought that we wouldn't get to see our students again the rest of the school year. So thank goodness we had created this leadership group. But within that, we had developed this year a senior class leadership team that was composed of our class officers and other students, many of those you've seen in the pictures that Misty went over, who really had an interest in trying to elevate the leadership capacity at the school. Because of this group, I reached out to them, and we've been actually conducting, as you can see here in the picture, Google Meet sessions where we have been discussing our options for prom and graduation. And, at this point, we're working on doing a virtual we're calling it a virtual prom parade, not virtual, I'm sorry, just a prom parade, where that our students will be able to drive through in cars and go through a parade route into the school where we can take a picture of them, and then they can drive on out. Even though we won't get to do a dance, we at least give them an opportunity to dress up and have some pictures taken. Graduation, we're currently working on some solutions there where we are looking at a virtual component where we can give their diploma to them at school and individual appointments, but also then conducting a drive-through ceremony where we can conduct the speeches and all the things that we would normally do. We would like to do one other thank you again, and we actually borrowed this slide from the REL Appalachia presentation that they had shared with us, and it had information on how to contact them, and we really could not have accomplished all we did this year without their guidance and help, in the process, which concludes with our next steps. And as I mentioned earlier, those student and teacher surveys that we've discussed, we're going to have to refine and analyze those surveys and develop new ones for next year. And we really were looking at the idea, now that we know the direction we want to go in, of doing more pre-post testing where we can do some beginning of the year surveys, and then by the end of the year we can hopefully measure and see what type of progress that we've made, in addition to these formative feedback type surveys that we just showed you. We also are going to continue our Leader in Me training this summer with our student core leadership and with our faculty. And, it was very impactful, as Mark said earlier, on our staff, because it focused not only professionally, but also personally for those involved, both students and teachers, to really take a look at yourself and ways you can improve and maximize your life, both towards your work and career goals, but also, like I said, in your personal life. And we also will be obviously working on creating and implementing new lessons for our year 4 into our leadership program, which will continue to incorporate Leader in Me, along with other activities that we've been working on, such as vision boards and things that we've been doing already in our 3 years. And we want to continue expansion of our student and teacher leadership teams, and we hope to be able to add more people that are interested to those, especially as we have some students graduate. And so that concludes our presentation, like our PowerPoint part. I would like to thank all of our people who have worked with us on this Zoom presentation, and hopefully it sheds some light on where we are. We're very excited about the process, and we're very hopeful about where it's going to lead us. We feel like that we're seeing some meaningful impact with our students and staff, and we think that it's going to lead to even greater things as we move on into the 2021 school year. So thank you for joining us.